War steals many things: homes, livelihoods, and loved ones. But for Naji Fayez Foura, it has also placed an unbearable weight on his young shoulders. At just 21 years old, he is not only a refugee from Gaza, but also the lifeline for his family, split between Egypt and the devastation left behind. In this interview, Naji shares his story of survival, separation, and an unyielding fight to keep his family alive in a world that too often looks away. Separation is one of the hardest wounds of war. When you were forced to leave Gaza, you had to leave behind your father and older siblings. Can you take us back to that moment at the border? What did it feel like to step forward, knowing they could not follow? How do you carry the weight of that moment with you each day? Naji's response. That moment at the border was one of the most painful experiences of my life. The weight of knowing I was walking forward while my father and older siblings had to stay behind felt unbearable. It wasn't just a physical separation. It was the shattering of everything familiar, the tearing apart of our family unit. I remember looking back, trying to memorize their faces, their expressions, as if somehow that could make up for the uncertainty of when I'd see them again. Every step forward felt wrong, like I was leaving a part of myself behind. The guilt was so overwhelming. Why me? Why was I the one who got to leave while they had to stay? That question still lingers in my mind every day. I carry that moment with me in everything I do, in every phone call with them, in every thought of home. It's a constant reminder of both loss and resilience, of a deep love that distance cannot erase. You are not just a 21-year-old man. You are now the backbone of your family, carrying the burden of survival for both those who made it to Egypt and those still trapped in Gaza. Naji, how do you find the strength to keep going, even on the days when the weight feels unbearable? Naji's response. This kind of responsibility is exhausting, especially at such a young age. When your survival depends on you, there is no choice but to keep moving forward. And strength in such moments, often comes from love. Love for family, for country, for the people who depend on you. You find strength in the small victories, putting food on the table for the day, sending money home, keeping hope alive for those still trapped. You draw strength from the resilience of those who came before you, knowing that they have endured hardship and are still pushing on. And sometimes strength comes from allowing yourself to feel the weight, acknowledging the pain, and choosing to rise up the next day. You mentioned that you sometimes wish you had stayed in Gaza, facing death, hunger, and bombings, rather than the isolation you feel in Egypt. Naji, can you share what it's like to be displaced, not just from your homeland, but from the sense of belonging and recognition? What is the hardest part of being a refugee in Egypt? Naji's response. Being displaced is not just about losing a home. It's about losing a sense of identity, community, and security. For many refugees, including those from Gaza, Egypt can feel like a limbo. Physically safe from the bombs, but mentally trapped in isolation, uncertainty, and often discrimination. One of the hardest parts of being a refugee in Egypt is the lack of legal rights and protections. Many refugees struggle to find stable jobs, access healthcare, or even move freely. Without proper documentation or residency status, life becomes a series of barriers. Unable to plan for the future, constantly fearing deportation, and struggling to be seen as more than just a statistic. There's also the emotional toll. Being away from home means being away from family, culture, and the deep-rooted sense of belonging that makes life meaningful. Many refugees feel invisible, their stories unheard, their suffering ignored. The longing to return, even to a place under siege, stems from the fact that home, even in its most broken form, still holds a sense of identity and dignity that displacement strips away.
Naji, the war took your home, your father's business, and your family's security, but it could not take your love for them and your determination to help them. What do you wish the world understood about your father? His strength, his sacrifices, and what he is enduring now? Naji's response.
I wish the world understood that my father is more than just a victim of war. He is a man of resilience, sacrifice, and unwavering love for his family. He built his business from the ground up, providing not just for us, but for our community. The war may have destroyed his shop, but it did not break his spirit. Even now, as he endures loss and uncertainty, he carries himself with quiet strength. He does not complain about what he lost. Instead, he worries about how to rebuild, how to keep us safe, and how to make sure we do not lose hope. His sacrifices are countless, working tirelessly, skipping meals so we can eat, holding back his own grief so we do not see his pain. I wish people understood that war is not just about numbers or news reports. It's about people like my father, who have given everything, yet still fight to protect their families. He is not just surviving, he is still leading, still loving, and still holding us together.
In the face of so much suffering, Naji, hope can feel, I would imagine, impossible. But it still exists, even in the smallest ways. Where do you find hope today? What keeps you holding on, even when everything feels like it's falling apart? Naji's response.
Hope may seem distant in tough times, but I find it in the small, quiet moments. A kindness from a stranger, a deep conversation, listening to the Quran. Nature helps too. Watching the sunrise reminds me that each day is a new beginning. When I feel like everything is falling apart, I hold on to the idea that change is constant, and even the worst moments don't last forever. Connecting with others, even in the smallest ways, also keeps me going.